years. So I'm really enthusiastic about this talk. So please give a warm welcome to Carson, who will be talking about how to save your SOC from stagnation.
Hey folks, thank you. I am excited to be here. Who here works in a SOC? Some of you. Who here is here? By show of hands, who are here is here? About half of you. Okay, so by that, my control group suggests all of you work in SOCs. This talk is for you. Come on, trackpad, there we go. So let's say you work in a SOC. We're gonna make that assumption for a moment. This is what your life probably feels like. You're overwhelmed, your alerts suck, your data sucks, your processes suck. In fact, everything sucks. And to make matters worse, nothing is getting better. You feel like this guy, right? We all have in the last 3 years. So you might feel like you have two options. Rage quit or just give up, right? But there's a better way. In this presentation, assuming my clicker works, in the next 18 minutes, I'm gonna give you 7 tools to make this suck less. And in the process, you and your fellow analysts and engineers and investigators and responders will learn constantly, feel heard, grow your careers, and translate your problems into action. The ultimate purpose of all of this is that we all need to achieve more effective and efficient analytics, investigation, and response. So I'm not saying you have to do all 7 of these things, folks. What I am saying is do 1 or 2 of them if you're not doing them already. If you're doing 2 of them already, do 2 more. And make them first-class citizens in what you do as part of your business. A little bit about me. I haven't been doing this too long. I've come by every gray hair on my head, honestly. This little patch right back here, that was SolarWinds. All right, this was Log4j. This one back here, I can't tell you about that one. If you haven't already checked out my book, I did write a book on security operations 8 years ago. That was actually my first ShmooCon presentation, was on that book 10 years ago. Please don't pay for it. It's free. The second edition, 11 Strategies here, came out this past March. You can download that at link there. So I'm gonna go over these 7 tools to make your day-to-day and your long-term feelings better. The first one is Detection V-Team. Now, we're gonna have coming into this SOC all of this stuff. We have our customer engagement, we have proactive hunt, we have our incidents, our pen tests, we have ideas from our intel and our partner SOCs and from the vendors in the community. And all of this stuff is going to land as a set of ideas that we have. And what I would encourage you to think about doing in this first one is on some kind of routine basis, not every day, maybe every couple weeks, maybe once a month, whatever makes you happy, bringing together different people in your SOC, the people who are doing triage, the people who are doing detection authoring, your hunters, and your data wranglers, and talk about it in a V-team. And the idea is that this V-team, you organize all of your detection ideas in some way that makes sense to you. Maybe you prioritize them or stack rank them or something like that, and then you federate out execution. Maybe you use Agile, maybe you don't. Maybe you use 10% of Agile, maybe you don't, whatever. But the point is that you're getting together so that the engineers, if you have a separate engineering org, you might not, have line of sight to what and why and what are we doing and all this fun stuff. All right, so tool number 1, Detection V-Team. I've seen people doing this for 20 years, and it's really, really cool because they get a lot of ideas and then they turn those ideas into detections. Oh, don't forget, test your detections, folks. If a detection hasn't been tested, does it work? No, hell no. All right, tool number 2. So now we're doing our investigations. And by the way, the stuff in green is what you're probably already doing. These are the SOC processes that you probably already know about and seem very routine and familiar to you, right? You have a new case, you investigate it, maybe you respond, and next case. First thing I would add to that mix is something called a technical hot wash. what this is that the end of every case that seemed interesting or different or new or big or awful, do a meeting of how did they do it. Meaning the people who are doing the investigation and response do a hot watch of the queries, the analytics, the detections, the data sources of how they figured out what they figured out. This is a training opportunity for the rest of your SOC, because I'm guessing there's probably a few people in this room who have a training budget now that is smaller than what it was 6 months ago. Shot in the dark, right? This is training, and you build it in, and here's the thing, there's no prep. Come with your queries, come with your data, show us what you did. That's it. You don't have to write a 20-page PowerPoint, and you don't have to get on a plane. Now, from all of this stuff, you're going to learn all these things. And some of this is going to sound obvious and some of it not. All right, so let me go through the list of all the things, and this is building to something, so just bear with me. You've got your data curation, better ingestion, better parsing. Right, so from all this stuff, you're going to follow work items. Maybe you're going to do those immediately. Maybe you're going to do those in a year. But make this a first-class citizen of what you do. You've got better decoration for your events, for your alerts, for your cases. Come on, PowerPoint. Improving your analytic notebooks. Writing better queries or functions or code. In fact, here's a thought. Your queries don't need to be perfect before you commit them to your code repo. Your queries actually might suck, but even if they suck, they're better than nothing. It's a way of bootstrapping your friends. Have your good analysts put their awful queries in the repo and then improve on them, even if they're not perfect. Or if you do want to go into greater detail, you've got your data source documentation. I'll talk about that in a slide in just a second. And then your partner and service Rolodex, right? All of the major business owners, business units, services, IT infrastructure, keep that in a Rolodex. Are there anyone here who does not know what a Rolodex is? That's a thing where you keep all of the names and addresses and email addresses of all of the people that matter to you, all right? So, paper format. So every major incident you have, you should be doing this. Every major incident should yield one of the boxes in blue on this slide. This is how you build in that improvement. And it doesn't have to be big. Now, let's talk about some of the data source stuff for just a second. In the SOC, particularly for the investigators, anyone doing analysis of data that they're getting, they're traversing this evolution from top to bottom. That they go from the status of they don't know a data source exists, they're identifying it through one person doing a drug deal to get access, through maintaining persistent access for the rest of the organization, documenting that, and then actually finally being able to depend on it, either by ingesting it themselves, parsing it themselves, or having some kind of data contract with the people who own it. And what I'm telling you is don't just make this drug deals, though that's going to happen. And don't just make this one analyst. Write it down in a spreadsheet, an AD repository, a Jira repository, whatever makes you happen, some structured format, because you're going to accumulate dozens or hundreds of these. In fact, some of the best SOCs I've worked with, yeah, they've got great SIEMs, and folks, I've clocked thousands of hours in front of SIEMs, but the best SOCs I've worked with actually control less than 10% of their data estate, meaning they are accessing dozens, if not hundreds, of data lakes outside their control. And this is why you've got to turn this into a routine process. And a routine process, you build structure around and documenting it. I digress. Tool number 3, response automation. A bit of motherhood and apple pie here, but watch for the fun stuff. All right, so you're going to do your investigation response, your responders, your analysts, whatever, they're going to say, I need to do a thing. You're going to have some response framework. In fact, you might not have only one. Maybe it's a SOAR, maybe it's not, I don't care. And you're already thinking about acting on machines and IPs, right? We all think about blocking IP addresses. Is that the only thing we can do to stop an adversary in an incident? No, right? We've got other options. Anyone throw out ideas? Hash, yeah, what else?
Disable
Accounts, what else? All kinds of stuff. The first thing I want to encourage people to think about is think about those other levers you're going to pull, right? Experienced SOCs that I work with will have dozens of different ways of responding and dozens of different systems they can potentially act against. Here's one thing might not be thinking of, your commerce and billing systems, particularly if you are a service provider or provide anything in the cloud to someone else. So when we're doing this, when we're just getting started, I'm going to steal a page from JHU APL, who came out with a really nice framework. I'll put up a link in just a second, that talked about how do you decompose the problem of SOAR and what do you do first. And what they talk about is what I recommend as well, and that is focus on high benefit, low regret. The things that if you screw up, you're not going to be in trouble, or your vice president's not going to call you, or you're out of a job, or in what I call a resume generating event. In fact, what I would encourage you to start with in this area is people are usually like, oh, I'm going to shoot laser beams at the cyber adversary. No, you're going to automate ticket creation first, more likely. Meaning, create more rhythm, repeatability, efficiency, and effectiveness in how you're talking to other people with the following caveat: don't become a spam cannon, right? Don't create a ticket storm for another team. And there's different ways to do this in different frameworks, right? So the point is if we're thinking about response automation and you haven't yet done an actual eviction action, think about instead starting about taking all that ticket filing you have to other teams and automate that first, because it's going to get you some experience. I'll take questions at the end. All right, let's talk about hunt. All right, everybody talks about hunt. Let me first talk about what I don't mean when I say hunt. Do I mean ordinary alert investigation? Hell no. Do I mean wandering around aimlessly in data? Hell no. All right, when I say hunt, it's a hell of an overloaded term, folks. I'm talking about proactively searching through all of our stuff to look for malicious and suspicious activities that evaded detection. That's routine. All right, and I adapted this definition with Trellix. Thank you, Trellix. All right, so let's decompose hunt and talk about how do we make that more awesome. Now, we all think about hunt as a proactive activity. Usually, it's good time. So you're getting all this stuff in, and you're creating your hunt. All right, so think back to the detection V team I talked about in tool number 1. Same idea. You're getting people together, and you're talking about your ideas for hunt. Here's where it gets more fun. Come on, PowerPoint. You're going to prepare in your get data, and you're going to set your hunt traps. Now, your hunt traps probably feel a little bit like detections, don't they? We're not quite there yet. All right. Go back to that previous point where I talked about most of your data estate is data you don't control. One of the things I would encourage you to think about doing in your hunt is don't feel like you need to pull it into your SIM. That could be expensive. Use a framework to execute query on timer and give you those results back. You're going to achieve so much more with so much less effort, vice feeling like you must ingest it into your own SIEM. So have some automation framework native to whatever makes you happy, perhaps your cloud, perhaps not, to do query on timer, because the results are your hunt traps. From there, that comes to your reporting out, right, and your detections. So, and this one more click. Now, if during a hunt, a very smart person finds random bad stuff, does that mean that they proved their hypothesis? No. One of the most important things I see about proactive hunt here is helping people differentiate and have the discipline to know the difference between random bad stuff and I proved or disproved my hypothesis. In fact, every major hunt I'm involved with, they're going to find random bad stuff, right? So we want to have a way of dealing with that. I'm going to show you a method that we can handle that in just a second. Tool number 5, standard operating procedures. Now, in literally everything we do, new case types, major incidents, we've got new, better tools, we've got our hunts, we screw up, there's reorgs. Any of this stuff is going to trigger changes to our playbooks or SOPs, whatever you call them. And I'm going to conflate them because in this context, it doesn't really matter. Here is my message to you. Updating and using SOPs is the responsibility not of one person or the leads or PM or a tech writer. It's all of your responsibility. And it's the number one way you defend against turnover. I've been doing this for 20 years. How often do you think I read SOPs? I'm serious. I've been doing this 20 years. How often am I looking at an SOP? Anyone? Pretty much every day. Because I can't keep track of the literally 100 SOPs that is in my organization because we have so many different incident types. So what I'm trying to tell you is no one is above this. And anyone who says to you that they're above this needs to check their ego at the door. So what I would encourage you to think about doing is make updating SOP the responsibility of everyone in the organization. And the vetting, I'm done with this slide, you can take pictures, thank you. The vetting is going to be commensurate with how big of an update is that. Like, did someone fix a typo? Does it need to go through the boss's boss? No, of course not. But if we're going to write some new SOP that could have major implications, like some new response thing where we're turning stuff off, and if it went bad, a VP is going to get a call or the president or whatever, yeah, then that's going to require more vetting. Everybody's job. Number 6, post-incident review. This is a fun one. All right, when I say post-incident review, I mean the set of processes that are involved in capturing what went wrong and then tracking that to its resolution. So when I say PIR, I'm referring to, a thing that we go and fix. All right, so you're doing your incidents, you're doing response, and then here's the first thing. As soon as your incident starts, you start writing down what goes wrong almost immediately into what I'll politely refer to as the slop bucket. And every time you write down a slop PIR, that should take you less than 30 seconds. No complicated forms, no questionnaires, one sentence in a spreadsheet or on a page. Think of them like rough notes. Oh, I didn't have the data I need, Sally screwed up, Mark bailed over there, I couldn't get a hold of Dave, whatever. Whatever went wrong, write down one sentence in the heat of the moment right there, what screwed up, because you're going to come back to it later. After this incident is over, you have what I'll refer to as your slop grooming session. Very, very high end right here, folks. You take everybody's slop, and then you make real PIRs out of them. Because I guarantee you, all the stuff that happened during the incident, if you didn't write down the slop then, you forgot about it. And it was probably the really bad stuff that happened when you were busy and completely overloaded because you're getting crispy on 8 p.m. on a Friday, because that's when all incidents happen, folks, right? So from there, and then this is the other piece, is assign someone in your SOC or around your SOC or something like that to be generally responsible for tracking this stuff. Maybe you assign them out to other organizations, maybe they're internal, whatever. But the point is that you have that focal point or a couple focal points to track this stuff. Maybe it's analyst, maybe it's a PM, maybe it's an engineer, maybe it's lead, whatever, right? But the point is you're tracking them to resolution. I have 3 minutes, I need to hurry up. Tool number 7, this is my last one, stronger together. So when we have incidents, we're gonna engage other parties. Was that you? How did this work? Is this bad? I don't understand, all of that stuff. And they're going to help you understand, the whys of the prevention, detection, et cetera, right? Here's what you're probably not thinking about as much. Number 1, you might be thinking about having some kind of onboarding program for new services, new organizations, new acquisitions coming in, and onboarding to security generally, or maybe the SOC itself. And that's going to help you support hygiene and patching generally, right? Here's something you might not be thinking about, and that is not just using that engagement for them to know who to call when bad stuff happens, but think about them participating in your hunt and your detection writing, because they're going to know more about their businesses than you will. And rather than them being your noisiest detractors, actually have them come in, play by a set of rules that they sign or whatever, that make sure they don't do dumb things like escalating to the wrong place or becoming an insider threat, right? We have to have some guardrails against that. Democratize this. Now, I have 1 minute left, so I'm going to wrap up and say you're also probably thinking at this point, how do I make all of this happen? I don't have time to do any of this. To a degree, if you start doing this, you're going to make more time for yourselves. I would argue we feel like, and we get in a rut and oftentimes think about or lose sight of what the things that we're doing that we feel are required but aren't. So talk to your lawyers, talk to your compliance people. I bet you're doing a lot more than you necessarily need to, and you could just stop. Just stop. So with that, you can implement any of this. Don't feel like you need to go from 0 to 100. Don't feel like you need to go from 0 to all 7. SOCs of all sizes and ages are doing or not doing this stuff, and I'd encourage you to do more of it. If you're doing this right, your analysts will want to make time for this. People who normally feel like it's a 9 to 5 job or whatever hours your on-call rotation is, may feel like they're going to put more time in, and they're going to want to do this, and that's how you start burning down some of those other problems. And then finally, if you're doing this right, that's going to give them capacity so that the next solar winds hits or whatever major incident comes down the line, they've got time because they're going to stop doing this momentarily and focus on the incident. So with that, I've got the 7 techniques. I think I'm about to get booted off the stage. Why don't I take questions on the side? So thank you.